Hi, I'm Festus Maiganap. Welcome to this edition of Business PNG. The Manufacturers Council has been around for the last 21 years now, a private sector organization that promotes manufacturing and downstream processing in Papua New Guinea. Since its inception in 1991, the Council has come a long way, having acquired over 100 active members. Now, that's apart from the subsidiaries of the member companies. We spoke to the chairman of the Council, Murray Wu, recently to find out more about the work of the Council.
Hi Murray, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Murray, how important is it to buy PNG made products?
Extremely important. If we were to think about the future of our country and the people, job opportunities, manufacturing, job-wise, we need to provide an opportunity after the industrial boom that we are having now and plan for it, that we can give an opportunity to our people for generations to come.
Now I know the initiative started back in the 90s, am I right?
1991. We first formed the Manufacturers Council with about a dozen directors, and we've come a long way since.
How many members would you have now?
We have well over 120 members right now, but beyond that, of course, they have other subsidiaries, so we don't count those. But these members are very active and are very passionate about their products and in being an import replacement for the goods that are available here.
And is that small, medium, large manufacturers?
From very small manufacturers to large-scale manufacturing. I think I'd like to say that, the impression that overseas visitors who come here, they find that the range that we can manufacture here and the size of industry we have here, they're truly amazed by what we can do here. And we need to put a bit of focus on that, and I think we need to develop it further. And we have a PNG made brand, and we'd like to promote that and bring the awareness of our PNG made brand, which you can see on a lot of PNG made products.
I know way back when the initiative started and a lot of companies started to include the brand on their labelling, there was perhaps possibly negative connotations about buying PNG made. Has that improved? Is there a perception in the marketplace that we are manufacturing quality goods?
I can say very confidently that our manufacturers have the highest of standards, and some have attained HACCP and some have attained ISO, including my company. The standards are just as good or surpass what is expected. Now, if you compare to some of the cheap imports that are coming in, the standard that the companies put themselves because of this perception that PNG made products are not as good, they go the extra mile to do so. And I believe that today the change of mind through the people of PNG, Papua New Guinea, that PNG made products are no longer inferior, but just as good or better. And that is a very strong message we'd like to give continuously.
And is it fair to say, Murray, that the PNG, the Papua New Guinean consumer, is getting a lot more discerning about what they are consuming?
Well, what I can say about that is they need to be shown or educated about our products so they can be more comfortable and relaxed and know why they are buying a PNG made product, to support local industry. By supporting local industry, they are actually supporting themselves and giving more job creation.
And you believe there is a strong link between carrying the brand and also the perception that you are creating jobs?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I wanted to know, with exports, how do you think we can add value to exports?
Well, value adding is a big coined word nowadays, and definitely, we've been missing out many years with exporting our raw materials, and value adding is the way to go now. I mean, may not be on everything, but on maybe coffee, one product that came to mind. And some of our vegetables can be processed and exported. We are missing out on that added value. And I believe that with the right economies of scale and with the right sanitary and country of origins sorted out, it can be a very big potential for Papua New Guinea.
And what does the Manufacturers Council have in place to actually support the industry, to add value to exports?
Well, I mean, our CEO, Shay Scovell, is on the ground there, dealing with the government sector and private sector to ensure that we do bring it to the standard and that we are able to bring down the barriers and impediments that the manufacturers are facing today so they can look towards exporting if they need to do.
Is the government helping the manufacturing industry, do you believe?
No. I'm sorry, but no. But I think with this new government, there seems to be a bit of a push that they do want to look and assist our industry.
And what areas would you like to see improved on?
Obviously, infrastructure, red tape being reduced, more focus on certain industries that have the capability and the capacity to export and provide better services and competitive products to our people.
It seems to be a common desire for all stakeholders in the economy here is better service delivery, isn't it?
Certainly, that's part of the key.
Now, could you tell us a little bit more about the current PNG Made campaign?
Well, I can't say much about it right now because we're still going through the process of coming up with a strong the identity and promotion of it, and we're trying to link with the passion of the people of supporting of the PNG Made products. That's still under the process of being done, so I don't want to say too much right now about it.
Right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to the manufacturers in this country?
Certainly. I'd like to say to the manufacturers that there is a good, strong future for you, and I know that a lot of you are putting more investment into this country, and by that we also look at creating jobs for our people. Thank you.
We thank you for your time today, Murray, and we wish the Manufacturers Council the best of luck.
Thank you for the opportunity.
After the break, we speak to the Chief Executive Officer of the Manufacturers Council, Shay Scovell. Don't go away. Currently, Papua New Guinea imports processed food, clothing and footwear. However, there are potential investment opportunities in downstream activities here. With the potential comes challenges that need to be addressed. And these are no different to what's faced by the other economic sectors, such as high transportation costs, shortage of skilled labor and expertise, port congestion, and law and order issues. However, the unique challenges faced in the manufacturing and downstream processing is the perception of the consumer market in buying PNG-made products, and unsurprisingly, the threat of cheaper imported goods that dominate the market in great quantities, providing a wide range of consumer preferences. But remember, these are usually inferior products.
That was an informative discussion with Murray Wu, Chairman of the Manufacturers Council. We're now joined by the CEO of the Manufacturers Council. Welcome to the show, Shay.
Good morning, Anya. Thank you for having me here today.
Shay, I might just ask you about the challenges to the manufacturing industry here in Papua New Guinea.
Yes, Anya, I think the challenges faced by industry involved in the manufacturing, downstream and value-added processing sectors are not unique to them. You know, the high transportation costs affect our members significantly. Port congestion, law and order issues, you know, access to skilled labour and expertise. All of the things that I think that members in the finance sector, the resources sector, the retail, other commercial sectors, a lot of those challenges are shared. I think probably one of the more unique challenges that's faced by people in manufacturing and downstream processing is, I guess, the perception of, of the consumer market towards, buying locally made products, and also, I guess, the threat of cheaper imports, essentially, which arise from the high cost of manufacturing and value-adding processes in Papua New Guinea. Also, I think, some of the trading positions that our government has taken or seeks to take, can either represent an opportunity or a risk to people that are in those sectors.
Having covered the challenges of manufacturing here in the country, why would anybody invest into actually manufacturing onshore?
I think that there's two areas. Number one is that we have an abundance of natural resources beyond, the mining and petroleum sector. I think that it's widely acknowledged that we have an abundance of, marine resources. We've got forestry products. There's an untapped, potential in the agricultural sector, and then of course you have, the FMCG, beverages, cigarettes, tin fish, paint, and the like. The real opportunities are that, we've not really even captured the domestic market yet. So if I was to consider, one of our members in particular, they, in terms of consumption rates, they would sell only about 24, cans or bottles of product per person in PNG per year. Now, in similar markets, that average is more up around, 20 bottles a month. So the room for growth in those markets, and there's a correlation between that product and across the board. So manufacturers or, service providers in Papua New Guinea are really probably only getting coverage to 10 or 15% of the consumer market in Papua New Guinea. Outside of that, there's still enormous potential for export opportunities. The challenges will, I guess, affect the success and the likelihood, but more so the time frame that's realised. I don't think that PNG can hide behind the curtain for another 10 years. But certainly, when we live on the doorstep, of Indonesia, which is the fourth most populous country in the world, 240 plus million people, a GDP and a population growth in the double digits over the next 5 to 10 years, and they don't have enough food to feed their people. And most of their suppliers in the emerging markets in the Southeast Asian corner, they've got tremendous growth as well. So they've got their own food security issues. I think Papua New Guinea is well poised to turn its attention from, servicing Australia and New Zealand or the Pacific markets with some, I guess token's not the right word, but much smaller volumes with higher barriers for entry to the likes of Indonesia. And I think that really represents unprecedented growth for the long term for Papua New Guinea. And I think that once the government is able to take some strong forward steps towards improving the platform, the underlying platform on which business activities are undertaken, so relieving port congestion, improving the road transportation network, we won't only see unprecedented growth in a lot of other sectors, but particularly in that value-added sector where we start to derive more value from our own commodities and resources and access markets like Indonesia, and the other 70 or 80% of the local consumer market. All of those people in the value-added processes I think will have the largest potential growth and the largest growth of all the sectors.
There's more to come on the other side of the break. If you've just joined us, you're watching Business PNG. Now, with the industrial boom and the sound economic growth in general, there's need for proper government policies to complement the manufacturing and downstream processing industry. The Manufacturers Council is working with relevant authorities to boost the performance of the sector that will lead to a strong domestic production base to replace reliance of the non-renewable resource industry, such as mining and petroleum.
And what is the Manufacturers Council strategies towards actually engendering the local consumer market?
Well, a lot of that comes from, I guess, the right government sort of policies. So quite often you hear the words, like industry assistance or industry support, and I think that we have to note the difference between those two. And whilst there's a perception, I think that the Manufacturers Council seeks to have government assistance or support towards their members, it's really about creating the right platforms that are conducive to growth and development, increasing the road network, having policies. We've been working closely with the Planning Department, with the Department of Trade, Commerce and Industry, and a number of other relevant statutory authorities to help the self-subsistence farmers to progress, to graduate from being a subsistence farmer to a cash crop farmer to a surplus farmer, and then moving towards these agri-businesses and agri-corporations. I think we need to find a unique model for Papua New Guinea. It's not necessarily realistic, particularly in the medium term, to come into an era of large, broad-acre, broad-scale, businesses in Papua New Guinea. We have to respect the cultural nuances of Papua New Guinea, and there will be a balance with a series of smallholder or cooperative type arrangements that can feed into an agribusiness. And I think if we looked at it more closely, you'd see that it has happened to date with the PNG LNG project. We have a number of farmers that are now supplying, the catering companies for these contractors, and they're supplying large volumes of fresh produce that was not seen in Papua New Guinea, and to a certain standard. So once the government comes up with, strategies to increase that awareness of things that are already happening, I think other communities within Papua New Guinea will actually start to work towards that model, and that will increase their disposable income and their means, and with that comes additional consumer spending on consumption.
Business Advantage has published the PNG 100 CEO survey, and the top 6 critical issues for that are to do with labour shortage, etc., etc. What's the Manufacturers Council response to that?
Yeah, it was an interesting response. I think that if you look across all of the main issues that were faced by businesses, it was, number one, it was interesting to see that so many people placed quite a high priority. There was on particularly 5 or 6 issues that you mentioned. There was skill shortages or access to expertise, the high cost of labour, law and order security issues. I think law and order and security issues is more an outcome, or it's not the underlying cause of the problem. The high cost of labour and access to expertise is a real issue in Papua New Guinea. I think that it also ties into low productivity levels that are prevailing in the marketplace. The council has tried, on many occasions to work more closely with organisations like the National Training Council, and we're hopeful that the new government will actually allow for industry to sit on that board and help guide where efforts are made in terms of technical and vocational training. For instance, every year some 8,000 or 10,000 Papua New Guineans graduate with certificates in bookkeeping or automotive mechanic, some form of automotive mechanic certificates, be it in auto electrical or well, not necessarily in panel beating, that's a shortage as well. But there's nobody doing food technology, there's nobody doing refrigeration mechanics. I think that the success and the high demand for entry into colleges like the APTC have shown that that's where the focus needs to be. And the council, not having the resources ourselves, certainly we're calling on government and calling on the government service providers that regulate that industry to try and take a step back and see where the actual demand is as opposed to their output. And hopefully over the next couple of years we'll start to see a shift from all of these schools offering courses in areas where we have a surplus of people and there's not necessarily that many opportunities for them, into the areas where there is high demand, there's long-term stable employment, which is another issue. For the first time we're starting to see more and more Papua New Guineans not accepting short-term contracts. They're looking for the security of a long-term contract. So getting into what is referred to as the dirty trades or the technical trades supporting manufacturing and value-added industries, that represents long-term employment and career growth.
So perhaps the education and training gap may need to be addressed?
Yeah, certainly. I think that it's more about implementation. I made a presentation some years ago on the topic, and really, I stand at 6'4", and I think that the stack of papers and studies that had been done was taller than me, but none of it had been implemented, and it's unfortunate. I don't think it's as simple an exercise as pulling out any one and implementing that policy, but I don't think we don't need to whinge about it anymore. We don't need to complain about it. I'm yet to find anybody that wouldn't agree that that's what the issues are and that's where the gap is. But what still needs to happen is for, as I said, those entities that are responsible for guiding and shaping the direction of, that part of industry, because that in itself is a growth area, I guess, for companies to get into training and TVET. But they need to do it in those sectors. So hopefully, as I said, in the next couple of years, people will start to look at where the activity has actually been and recognise that in terms of training, nobody's been supporting where the growth is, and they will step into those sectors.
After the break, Shay talks about specific areas the government need to respond to. It is understood the manufacturing and downstream processing industry contributes 6 to 7% of gross domestic product. While this may be lower than the other economic sectors, it indeed plays a major role in the lives of the majority of the country's population. The Council believes further tariff restrictions to local manufacturers would greatly reduce production costs.
Now, your chairman, Murray, spoke about government support and what could be done. Perhaps you could expand on what specific areas you'd like to see the government respond to.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of areas. I think, number one, it's important to note that within the government itself, they actually have targets, so we currently contribute about 6 to 7% of GDP. I think in a true sense it would be much higher if we were to consider, value-added agriculture. If we added, the contribution to GDP from palm oil exports, it would be much higher, which in a sense is, that is a manufacturing process. But formally, 6%, the government has put in a target of manufacturing contributing to 20% of GDP, 30% of GDP by 2020, which is quite significant. Now, given that the same governments and their advisors are talking about our GDP doubling, you're talking, some six-fold increase in the level of investment and output of manufacturing industries. So that's the context, that there is the plan, that's the benchmark, and there are no policies to get there. In the immediate term, we've asked that the government take a very, very quick and considered review of our approach to further tariff liberalisation. We've had a 32% appreciation of the kina over the last couple of years, which, whilst that has reduced the cost of input somewhat, getting it to our factories, the cost of port congestion, the cost of transportation, the cost of security, the increase in wage rates and rental accommodations for staff has more than eroded any benefit in the currency appreciation of the kina. However, all of the finished imports have benefited at coming in at you got a 32% purchasing parity increase there. So we need the government to take a very quick and considered look to further liberalising that. I think that when we look at the intentions of the tariff and reform program, there was a very, very clear commitment and a required commitment by the government to make tangible improvements to its underlying infrastructure. And it's certainly been no surprises to anybody, both in Papua New Guinea and investors looking inward to PNG, to have seen our leaders, our politicians, our heads of statutory agencies and departments making comments, all admitting that the infrastructure has continued to decline, despite hundreds of millions of kina of injections. It hasn't actually made any tangible improvements to the service delivery. Given that fact, we believe it's important for the government to give some considerations in a couple of key industries that are really on the cusp of viability in Papua New Guinea, to look at moving within the bound rates to level out that playing field a little bit there. Outside of that direct intervention, I think we need to take stock of the steps we're taking in terms of our multilateral trade arrangements. Certainly agreements like the IEPA have provided and represent significant benefits for Papua New Guinea. I don't know that I could share the same sentiments towards the proposed PACER Plus agreement. I think that we need to utilise the MSG agreement better, and also the PICTA agreement. in reality, we have a preferential trade agreement within the 14 Pacific Island countries, and between the two of them, they've been in existence for, you know, over 8-9 years. And no Pacific Island countries really leverage the benefits on offer under those agreements. So we think that the government, and not just Papua New Guinea, but collectively Pacific leaders should say, well, we've got these mechanisms in place, but nobody's utilising it. So it's time that they actually come up with strategies that can be implemented that can assist businesses, you know, SMEs. So how do we grow more SMEs? How do we get more Indigenous Pacific Islanders and more Indigenous Papua New Guineans involved in the formal sector? You know, 87.5% of our economy is in the informal sector. How do we shift that across? They're the policies that they need to try and come up with to help grow the industry. Again, I'd just be mindful when we use the words like assistance and support. We don't lobby government and say you need to give a cash incentive or a subsidy. We don't really think that they're effective. They create a false economy.
Thank you for your time today, Shay.
Thank you very much, Amy. It's been my pleasure appearing on Business PNG today.
That was Shay Scovell, the CEO of the PNG Manufacturers Council.
And that has been our edition of Business PNG. To view our programs online, you can log on to our website, the address now shown on your screen, and go to our Business PNG page. If you have any comments or suggestions, send them through to the email address below. That's businesspng@mtv.com.pg. I'm Festus Maiginap. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.